how do we get tighter action controls? And basically action controls are all about focusing on what do we want you to do, what don't we want you to do. It's always focusing on the action, not the outcome, all right? So we're not focusing on the results here, we're focused on the action. And some examples of physical constraints, and we know that that's associated with locks, you know, handcuffs. That's one way of thinking about it. Administrative constraints, where higher level personnel in the organisation have greater access to various parts of the computer system. Lower level personnel may have restricted access to different parts of the computer system. Those who do not have authority cannot violate the constraints. And like an internal control system works like this, where someone has access to updating the cash records, some other person has access to updating the inventory control and movement of physical goods. And so the separation of duties is one type of administrative constraint. So you know all about that with your auditing course. We have pre-action reviews. This is a way of going through actions to be taken with people before they do it. It's kind of like a pre-training. It's kind of like, are you really on the same page with me with what we expect to do with this list of SOPs that we have to do, standard operating procedures. Other ways of getting tight action control is through action accountability. So the starting point of having tighter action controls is thinking about what exactly do you want people to do, and then define it very specifically. So one way is, look, we can say, around this organisation, you must act professionally, and probably there are 30 people in the room, you've got 30 different definitions of what does acting professionally mean. Yeah, okay. So, or compared to another specific definition is obtain 3 competing bids before releasing a purchase order. Can you see that? If I'm talking to 30 people, then you've got one definition. 3 competing bids. It's very clear. It's black or white. Did you get 3? Did you get 4? Did you get 2? And that's different from acting professionally. And so the big takeaway here is, if you're going to have action controls, you need to be very, very clear. Black and white. How do 30 people know that the same thing has happened or not happened in terms of the actions? Definitions must be understood and accepted. So that's what we mean. The effectiveness of action tracking system. Employees should feel that their actions are noticed, and noticed relatively quickly. So we're actually tracking the actions of people as they go through. And reinforcement providers, significance of the rewards or punishment. So it's very important that rewards or punishments, if they are given, then that's made very clear. In the end, the whole system is clear. There's full transparency, not just the definition of what to do and what not to do, but if you do not do what you have to do, then here's the reward or the punishment. Look, whether that reward or punishment is the right thing to do or not, at least it has to be a black and white in clear terms, so people can internalize that and act accordingly, according to what is required. We all saw the Here's Lucy Factory, great video example, and you can replay that if you want to. Great video example where it started off with a results control, but also had action control. You know that with the speed of the conveyor belt. It also had people control in some ways. You had this boss coming in from time to time saying, alrighty then. And there are some other videos that you can look at that give you some examples of people controls. There's some interviews, definitely here and here, of employees of American Management Services where the employees are talking about how great it is to work at American Management Services. Now maybe they're set up and they're making it up, of course. We understand this promotion approach to having employee videos, but you can get an example of their employee attitude. And one thing that the woman says in the first video is that my goal is to bring my A game to work every day. And then the second one talks about, you know, I can earn a 6-figure salary and I get to do what I want. I get to have autonomy in working out solutions for various clients. And I'm always learning. And so these employees are talking about attributes that they get from working in the organisation. In some sense, these very much are they're actually visualizing and storytelling of the people controls in the organisation. These are the things that the organisation has really engendered among their employees over time, these people controls. So you can look for some examples of that. There are some more videos examples there, but let's just skip over that and go to the tightness of controls. Tight people controls. Can we have a tight people control? Yes, we can, where we have, remember, when we're talking about people controls, the very tightness of people controls are when we have that peer group pressure. And that is that you've got that shared norms and values of the culture. And if it's very, very clear, for example, around here, everyone wears a banker's shirt. Okay? Not bad, eh? Everyone wears a banker's shirt. You see, you must have a banker's shirt. You know what colour it is. I don't need to tell you. Okay, so banker's shirt. That may be a kind of a cultural control. If you're wearing a different colour, then you feel out of it. Okay, so people control. Is it written down in the SOP? No, people just tell you. People secretly tell you, oh, Neale, you better do something about that shirt of yours. What do you mean? What's wrong with my shirt? Well, it's the wrong colour. What do you mean? Well, it's not the banker's shirt colour. All right, so little things like that could be an example of tight personnel controls that in some organisations. In some other organisations, they may have very tight controls about what you leave on your desk and what you don't leave on your desk. And that may be related to the sharing of desks too. So it really depends on the dynamics of the organisation. Selection and training is very big in this because it's a selecting people with the right mindset. Remember, people controls, there's two things. There's what's in the mind here, right? And then over time it's a peer group pressure. It's that pressure that's coming on you, that thing in your ear. Neale, you mustn't do this. Neale, you mustn't do this. Neale, you mustn't do this. This is the way to do it. It must be this colour. You must do it this way. And there's nothing written down. These are the cultural controls that come from all the peer groups. But remember, the biggest people control starts with the selection because they're selecting the people with the right mindset, the person up here. Okay, remember the little gremlin up here, that picture? Yes, it's up here. That's what we mean by selection, okay? If you select and poorly select, that may be the downfall of that people control that you want to make very tight. So if you have very tight selection procedures that people have the same mindset and they think the same way, then you can have tight people controls. Training, it's a way that everyone has the training and their mindset of everyone having the training and the constant training and the regular training. We understand this is where we can engender the culture controls. So in that training program, you can infuse the training program with the things that are done around here. This is the way we do things around here. This is what we mean by a culture control, and it's a peer group pressure. It's a peer group that actually tells you. The training can actually build up what is expected among the peers. So selection and training, big things for having tight people controls. Culture controls are often more powerful and stable. So think about that. If you want to have a very strong culture controls, it can come with selection and training. It can come with that. But strong company culture really starts with having everyone on the same page about what are we about, what are we not about. And it's just that the way things that are done around here. So there's always some overlap with cultural and personnel control. This is the psychology and sociology. They do overlap. But the one thing that actually engenders or makes it tighter is the selection and training. The training can affect cultural controls. The selection can affect cultural controls over time. And there we have tight people controls. So let's move on. We have tight people controls. And then we have combinations, that is multiple forms of controls. To even have tighter controls. That's what we said at the start of the lesson in week 4. That is, we can have this controls as a package where we've got RAP. It is a package and it's brought together and they can reinforce each other and even overlap. So you've got the culture control, you've got the action control, you've got the results control, and they're all on the same page. They're overlapping each other, and then you have even tighter control. And therefore, what did we say in week 4? There is less leakage, you know, drip, 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 leakage. The aim is to achieve control over all factors critical to success. If you have too tight, you screw too tight on the results control, it may get a leakage in the personnel or the actions that are taken. Or the other way, you really tighten down on the actions, you may have a leakage on the results or the personnel. And it can, if you screw down on just one, you get a leakage in the other two. That's why getting good tight controls, it's important to think of all those three, the action, results and people controls. So the aim is to get high degree of assurance that the employees will behave as the organisation wishes. That is, you have good employees and they do what you expect the employees to do. Presentations on Thursday, that's great. That finishes the end of week 4.